Forget everything Wall Street keeps repeating about the so-called Magnificent Seven, because the market narrative is quietly shifting and most investors haven't caught it yet. Today we're entering what many believe is the era of the Mag 6, and this change could redefine how long-term wealth is built over the next decade. Welcome back to Stock Predictor, where we break down the biggest market shifts before they become mainstream, and in this video we're diving deep into the bold thesis popularized by Cathie Wood and her team at ARK Invest, a thesis that challenges the dominance of the traditional Magnificent Seven and replaces it with a tighter, more innovation-driven group of companies positioned to benefit from exponential technologies. For years, investors have been told that the Magnificent Seven were untouchable. These mega-cap giants dominated indices, carried the S&P 500, and became the default safe bet for both institutions and retail investors. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, Nvidia, Meta Platforms, and Tesla delivered historic gains, but market leadership never stays static forever. History shows that every dominant group eventually evolves, fragments, or gets replaced. Cathie Wood argues that we're now at that inflection point. According to ARK's research, the next wave of outsized returns won't come from broad mega-cap exposure alone, but from a more focused group of companies that sit at the intersection of artificial intelligence, robotics, energy storage, blockchain, and genomic innovation. This is where the idea of the Mag 6 comes in, not as a catchy label, but as a signal that capital is rotating toward companies with the highest innovation velocity rather than the largest market caps. One of the biggest reasons this shift is happening is valuation compression. Many Magnificent Seven stocks are now priced for perfection. Their growth rates are slowing, margins are normalizing, and competition is intensifying. Even small earnings disappointments can trigger sharp corrections. Cathie Wood has repeatedly warned that traditional valuation models underestimate disruption risk, especially when new technologies scale faster than expected. Artificial intelligence is at the core of this transition, but not the surface-level AI hype most investors focus on. ARK believes the real value will be created by platforms that integrate AI deeply into products, services, and infrastructure. Companies building autonomous systems, AI-driven drug discovery, intelligent energy grids, and next-generation financial platforms are where exponential growth could occur. This is why ARK is less focused on who is biggest today and more focused on who can compound innovation over time. Another key driver is convergence. ARK often emphasizes that innovation doesn't happen in silos anymore. AI converges with robotics, robotics converges with manufacturing, manufacturing converges with energy storage, and energy storage converges with transportation. When these technologies intersect, productivity increases non-linearly. This is where smaller, more agile companies can outperform legacy giants that are constrained by bureaucracy, regulation, and slower decision-making. Cathie Wood's Mag 6 concept also reflects a belief that index investing has become overcrowded. Trillions of dollars are passively allocated to the same mega-cap names, creating fragility in the system. If capital begins to rotate even slightly away from these stocks, it could trigger a powerful re-rating of under-owned innovation leaders. This is not about abandoning quality, it's about identifying where future quality is being created. One of the most controversial parts of this thesis is the idea that some Magnificent Seven companies may still do well, but not all of them will lead. Leadership narrows during major technological shifts, just like during the dot-com era when a handful of companies emerged stronger while many former leaders stagnated. ARK believes we're approaching a similar moment, where only those that fully embrace and monetize disruptive technologies will continue to outperform. Let's talk risk, because this strategy is not for everyone. Investing in innovation comes with volatility. Drawdowns can be severe, sentiment can swing violently, and patience is required. Cathie Wood has been very clear that her approach is long-term, often 5 to 10 years. Short-term traders may struggle with this style, but for investors who understand exponential growth curves, volatility is the price of admission. Another overlooked factor is regulation. As technologies like AI, crypto, and genomics advance, governments will attempt to regulate them. ARK believes that while regulation may slow progress temporarily, it ultimately legitimizes innovation and accelerates adoption. Companies that proactively work with regulators and build compliant platforms could gain a massive competitive advantage. The Mag 6 era is also about global competition. Innovation is no longer confined to Silicon Valley. Talent is distributed, capital is mobile, and breakthroughs can happen anywhere. Companies that can attract top global talent, scale infrastructure rapidly, and deploy capital efficiently will dominate. This global mindset is something ARK actively looks for when selecting its highest conviction investments. For retail investors watching this shift, the key lesson is not to blindly chase what worked yesterday, but to understand why it worked and whether those conditions still exist. The Magnificent Seven benefited from low interest rates, massive liquidity, and early dominance in digital platforms. The next decade may reward those who solve entirely different problems, like automation of labor, decarbonization, decentralized finance, and personalized medicine. This doesn't mean dumping all large-cap stocks overnight. It means reassessing portfolio concentration, understanding exposure to true innovation, and being honest about time horizon and risk tolerance. Cathie Wood's framework encourages investors to think probabilistically, not emotionally, to focus on long-term outcomes rather than short-term noise. As we move deeper into this decade, market leadership will likely continue to shift, narratives will change, and new winners will emerge. The era of the Mag 6 represents a broader truth about investing, that disruption is relentless, and capital flows toward those who harness it most effectively. Investors who recognize this early position themselves not just for returns, but for relevance in a rapidly changing financial landscape. If there's one takeaway from Cathie Wood and ARK Invest's perspective, it's this: innovation compounds faster than most people expect, but only if you're willing to endure uncertainty. The Magnificent Seven story isn't over, but it may no longer be the only story that matters. The next chapter of the market will likely be written by a smaller group of companies with the courage, vision, and technology to redefine entire industries. As always, this is not financial advice, but an invitation to think differently, to question consensus, and to study where the future is being built today. If you want to stay ahead of these market shifts, make sure you're subscribed to Stock Predictor, because in a world driven by innovation, those who understand change early are the ones who benefit most.